national. It's kind of every year, so they chose May as being National Foster Parent Association Month. And what's driving this, what I would suggest is that we adopt this kind of a proclamation at the end of April so that we can observe that, like at least the behavioral health people with their drinking pies and stuff, they got their stuff put in at the end of April. And I know this is the 26th of 27th of May, so we're the month is pretty much over with now. So
yeah, absolutely, and if we can get it in ahead of time, then we can do some promotion, because we do need to recruit more foster parents in the area. One thing that I'd like to highlight is in the past we've used stranger foster care, and these are good-hearted individuals that have volunteered and cleared to be foster parents. They're willing to take in children that they don't know, and we will always need individuals like that, and we especially appreciate the sacrifice that they make. One of the things we're trying to do is to identify relatives of children that are being taken into the foster care system. And, we also want to recognize those individuals as well and say that's an opportunity when an aunt or an uncle or a grandpa or grandma or someone, or even a brother or sister steps in to take care of a child.
There's even times that teachers have stepped forward and they've taken in a child that was one of their students. And that goes to a lot of hard work by everybody within our county partnerships in trying to make sure that these kids have the best place possible instead of sending them somewhere outside of our county. So I think I agree we can take it earlier next year and do a lot better promotion. This one kind of snuck up on us.
Yeah. And it can get pushed.
Well, and you guys have been preoccupied, and Eric's relatively new in the position, so I'm going to give you a one-year plan. 11-month warning that you need to do it earlier.
I'll note that in his evaluation.
Okay, do that.
I would just like to say, that I agree that the foster care is needed out there. My wife and I have been fostered our two boys before we adopted them, and it's a good deal. It's very rewarding to do. I don't regret doing it for a second. It's just a great deal. Thank you guys for bringing this forward and helping to understand.
Thank you.
With that, you take a motion?
Yes, I would.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
And we thank you guys for the
Thank you guys for all you do. Okay. Spend some more money here, I guess. Age 7. John, I think we're out of money.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Meano, Undersheriff. The first item we have is a discussion on jail hospital. Just to remind at least 4 of you, but I know, Jeff, you weren't here last year. We had a major transition in our jail inmate medical program. Dr. Meadows decided to retire. We had to seek an immediate term fix to Band-Aid us through part of the year while we were looking for a longer-term solution. We signed on with a group of local practitioners to get us through. At that time, we knew that that was only going to get us through about December. So when we built the budget last year, we didn't plan for really what the back half of the year might look like because we just didn't know who our potential providers would be. CFMG came online in February 1st, and so now we have a fixed essentially payment every month that takes care of the jail and the juvenile hall. We were hoping that we would have enough to get through the end of the fiscal year. We expected our jail hospital budget would drop off. That's the when an inmate can't be treated in the jail and we have to move them to Banner and then oftentimes to other hospitals. And those have dropped off. It's amazing since CFMG took over. We've had a bunch of short-term stays, but as you'll remember, we built that into the contract. The first $10,000 of any emergency room visit is on them. So we really mitigated our frontline costs on those short ER stays. And we were moving at a pretty good pace. Unfortunately, we had somebody that had a condition that was just beyond our ability, CFMG's ability to treat locally. They had to go to Banner. They had to go to Renown. They spent a week over there, had a pretty intrusive surgery. And once all of that got in motion, then there was no doubt that we were not going to make it to the end of the fiscal year with what we had budgeted. So that has continued to evolve, and we were able to get the person back. We worked with our neighbors in Shasta. Another tremendous advantage for us gentlemen with bringing CFMG on. Shasta's a CFMG county, so is Butte. We were able to work out a prisoner swap with Shasta because our inmate needed 24-hour-a-day medical care. We don't have that ability here, but Shasta does. So we did a prisoner exchange, and so our inmate could be treated down there. Unfortunately, that worked for a few days, and then now that inmate ended up back in a hospital in Reading. So it's just it's been just an ongoing saga. Since we've worked with the courts, we've been able to negotiate a release of the inmate, so the inmate can get proper health care treatment, and we aren't having to go and guard somebody down in Shasta County. So that is all of those things have contributed to this overage that's in front of you today. We think that $100,000 should, hopefully we won't need all of that. We won't know until we start negotiating those bills with Renown and the air ambulance and everybody what the total package will be, but we're confident that we can get it done for $100,000. The only thing I'll say in closing is every time we talk about inmate health care, gentlemen, I think it's important to remind the board, this is a moving target. We talk about living in a world full of attorneys. We talk about the higher expectation of care that is required for this population. And we put that in play last year. The board approved that. That was a major step forward. That was a major step forward against a sliding scale. And at some point, we fully expect we'll be back to say, we know that a year ago we asked you to approve a contract that contemplated 8 hours a week of psychiatric RN, but now we need 40 hours a week. Or last year we talked about 16 hours a day of nurses in the jail. Now the standard is going to be 24. We don't know what that is, but we just know that's a moving bar. I think it's important to highlight that every time we talk about inmate health care. So with that, any questions?
I have one question. It's not clear where the money's coming from. It said $100,000 in additional funding required for contingency or other available funds.
Yeah, the recommendation is contingency.
John, you were talking about the prisoner swap, and then you have to go to the hospital down in Reading. So you have to send deputies down there to watch you in Reading?
Yes. So when they go to Reno, same thing happens. Reno is our preferred location, not because we like to send those people and we hate paying those bills out of state, but obviously there's no mountain ranges between here and Reno. So for logistics, for us to guard people in the hospital in Reno is much easier than it is to guard them in Reading. So we've got a combination of options. One is we send people to Reno on 12-hour shifts. Two, a lot of times when we're in Reading, we'll end up having to rent a hotel room down there because by the time you add a 2+ hour drive to a 12-hour shift, that becomes a very long day to have people on the road. So a lot of times we'll rent a hotel and we'll stagger people's shifts 12 and 12 to get that done. We also, last year we worked with the CAO's office and entered an agreement with a security company in Reno who can also provide those guard services for us. Now, depending on the inmate, depending on their risk assessment, we can ask permission to remove the guard from an inmate. We've done that several times, but it completely depends. We won't remove a guard if they are high risk. We won't remove a guard if there's a high risk of whether it be violence or escape or somebody leaving that hospital, because we don't want to leave those EMS partners in jeopardy without a peace officer there to guard those inmates.
And so you do the same thing here with the Shasta County guy. If he had to go up to Banner or Reno, Shasta County would have to send a deputy to guard him?
Yes.
And how come I'm just curious, how come it doesn't work if you have the Shasta guy here? How come we don't use our deputy to guard him and down there vice versa?
So part of that's a favor. I mean, we did, in this case, it was a prisoner swap. We were willing to house our person because they have the 24-hour medical care. If we ended up with somebody there, clearly we could ask that, but everybody's in the same boat here, and everybody is just minimum staffing coverage. It's a real hardship for us to put a body on a hospital anytime they go. So if it were a Shasta, the good news is we don't have a trauma center here, so nobody from Shasta is going to end up in Lassen at the hospital. But it's very common for Lassen inmates to end up in Renown or Reading because they need that higher level of care that they can't get at Banner.
More questions? Seeing none, anybody in the public have any questions for John? Seeing none, the chair would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Motion to have a second.
No, second.
The motion is a second. Any more discussion?
One of the things, so this is working out good, John? This new group working out excellent?
Excellent. Excellent.
A 4/5 vote is required, so Madam Clerk, please pull the board.
Supervisor Chapman?
Aye.
Supervisor Alba?
Aye.
Supervisor Hemphill,
Aye.
Supervisor Hammond,
Aye.
Supervisor Potter.
Aye. Thank you. Next, you gonna stay there, John, control systems?
If I could jump in here, I just wanted to thank the Sheriff's Department. We, as you know, we did an RFP for just the jail control boards initially, and it came back very favorably. And so we met, and the sheriff's staff agreed that because of the way the finances were, that we can afford to do both the juvenile hall and the jail and save quite a bit of money. And so they went through the process of doing a whole nother RFP, came back very favorable, and thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Good job.
We were here months ago, Ed, you guys all, when we asked to reject the first bids and redo this. In this era, gentlemen, with the technology that we have, it would have been irresponsible not to at least consider a blended pattern that included us and the juvenile hall in one. If we put these together with one vendor, one more expansive project, it will, not only will it give each facility independently major upgrades that are we've both been working to duct tape these systems together for a lot of years now. So this will be very much improved conditions for the controls of all the intercoms, all the door locks, and obviously those things are they're hand in hand with the safety and the safe operation of those facilities. We have to be able to get people in and out of those buildings as fast as we can, as safe as we can. We have to be able to communicate with inmates anytime. We are their only lifeline. If an inmate's in medical distress and they hit that button, we have to know that we have good, reliable communications. We've been suffering from a lot of failures over the years. We've had good service to keep those things together, but this is a great, very timely, very important upgrade. And we put the blended package together. We brought it back. There were 3 people that sat down and really tried to vet all of these proposals. I worked on it on behalf of the sheriff, Jen Branning, obviously the probation chief, and Tony Shaw from the CAO's office. The 3 of us worked together and independently vetted these things, independently scored them. And as you will see, the one that we recommended is not the cheapest. Okay, the cheapest one that's out there is about $100,000 less. So I think it's important to note that. But we reviewed these things based upon a number of factors. Obviously, price was certainly one of them. But we looked at contractor experience, firm experience, customer satisfaction, transition plan, their plan to provide service, their service call response time, how long is it going to take to get somebody here if one of these things fails, and it was unanimous. Each of the 3 of us independently came up, thought that this ICS group was far and away the best choice. They did a great project in Mendocino County. We're fairly close with the Mendocino County jail commander, and he speaks very, very highly of this firm. He has nothing bad to say. There's nothing he would do different. There is nothing that he would change. So with that, I'd take any questions.
Well, Mr. Chairman, this is a joke. I'm going to preface what I have to say ahead of time because I know people have a tendency of misconstruing it. But I'm really surprised we don't have somebody here from the Historical Preservation Society wanting us to install the control system from the 1911 jail. It worked for them then. It should work for us now. So I just throw that out as a joke. Well, I think
You're being sarcastic.
I'm being sarcastic. But some people kind of take sarcasm and think it's the real thing. So I had to do a disclaimer ahead of time. So anyway. And that just shows you the progress that's been made. I mean, in terms of law enforcement, techniques. I mean, we're not in a static environment. And jail that was built 25 years ago might have passed muster then, but I mean, in 25 years, the challenges have grown exponentially. So you have to have a system that's in place. My only distress with this is the fact that we're dealing with it now instead of a year ago. I mean, we were on track. I mean, I realized that we had money set aside ready to go. We had no problem solved, but I think people have to appreciate this is hugely complex. And I'm not saying that John isn't capable and Dean's not capable of putting together complex things, but that's part of what the big delay is. You're only going to be able to do it once, and you got to get it right. And it's like, I guess, the same people who put the Apollo program together to actually put somebody on the moon. It's a complex thing like that. So I'm really glad to see that we're here, and I'm glad it worked out where we're able to incorporate the juvenile hall. So we have really the best and most modern approach to taking care of the security needs, and the 1911 jail will just have to be the 1911 jail.
And Jim, those control boards were called keys.
Yeah.
We still have those.
And iron doors that went twing.
It is incredibly staff intensive to try and navigate that jail, and of course that's a component of this. As we transition through this, there will come times where that control system will be dark, and we'll have to run that jail circa 1911 with keys. And not that it can't be done, but it will take a major amount of people to get that done and to do it safely. So,
I think it's really huge that we're getting this put to rest, because it's been used as a stumbling block to other projects. That, well, we can't do that because we haven't got this done. So at least this one can be taken off the table, and we can move on to the next important upgrade and improvement. Because we can do one at a time.
Any more questions for John?
I just have a comment. Sometimes the cheapest ain't the best, and I have respect for that. You have to pay for it a lot of times.
Any questions from the public? No, Aaron?
You knew there was a couple of RFID doors. I mean, how do they work? Are you going to be putting those in? Are they going to be everywhere? How do they work?
Eric, we're going to pause on those for the moment. Those are proximity detectors, like you see at the court, where you might have a chip in your ID card. Like if I take this to the court now, I can put it up next to certain doors because my court ID's in here, and it'll gain access. So we looked at that as an option. And not that it was a terribly expensive option, but this is going to be so big and so all-inclusive for now. We're gonna pause on those, and that would be a great kind of a bonus. But where we're headed right now is going to be so far and away better than where we've been. It'll be an easy add. If we decide that that's really a necessary add, then it'll be easy to come back, and the computer equipment will be there, the backbone will be there. It'll be easy to feather that in later if we think it's really necessary.
Okay, if no more questions, the chair would entertain a motion.
I would move, Mr. Chairman, that we award the contract for the county jail juvenile hall control system, integrated control system LLC, the top rated bidder, meeting the specifications in the amount of $459,079.85, and further authorize the CAO to sign the agreement upon approval by county council, and to authorize the Lassen County Sheriff to authorize change orders up to but not to exceed the amount of $45,000, which is approximately 10%, or a total contract not to exceed $504,079.85 from the accumulated capital outlay fund 119. I want to make sure it's specific.
We have a second.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Last chance, Sheriff.
Well, I'll say something real quick. I gotta say, John put a ton of work into this. I appreciate what Mr. Chapman said. Most counties would go out and hire a consultant to put this package together. And in the end, who knows how much money we save by doing it ourselves. But part of it's so important to us to make sure that it's done right that we wanted our hands in it. We wanted to make sure that the system we go to really fits our needs. And this has been the biggest handicap in our facility for years now. And it'll be nice to put this behind us so we can move on to other ones. So I want to thank John for his work on that. It's very complicated, and it was an incredible amount of work.
He's ready to work for the Apollo program
Real rocket science.
Completed by
We expect, Aaron, from the day we sign a contract, it should be 120-day to a ribbon cutting. We'll be working hard with the county council's office here in the immediate term to get that contract ready for the CAO.
You have permission to lock him up until he signs.
One thing John did mention was that while this is going in, we're going to start working now on a plan for that transition, because like John said, they're going to have to shut everything off. So we're going to have to bump up staffing, make sure we have an adequate plan where we can look out for the health and safety of all the offenders in the jail at the time. So we'll see. We're not sure what that's going to look like now, but we're working on it.
Because we'll actually have to seek a temporary suspension of the regulations that govern that jail for things like intercoms and to be able to remote access, get people out of that building in case of emergency or fire. So that'll be we'll probably spend some time working with the two prisons out here and see if we can, it may very well be in a mutual aid scenario for a week or more as we're in that dark time.
There was a period where, and it's a different state, of course, but the Washoe jail was having a malfunction in their electronic door locking systems. They were aged as well, and for inexplicable reasons, doors would unlock within the facility, without people necessarily pressing buttons. And so people could move around, and that's a problem. So the result of that was, for an extended period of time, while they went through an emergency procurement process, and installation process and the like, they had to position staff 24/7 around the exterior of the facility where they could say no one got out that wasn't supposed to. So there's some.
Okay, I have a question before the board.
Supervisor Chapman.
Aye.
Supervisor Alba.
Aye.
Supervisor Hatfield.
Aye.
Supervisor Hammond.
Aye.
Supervisor Kyle.
Aye. Thank you, guys. Okay, we'll go on to 9. John or Dean?
Yeah, we'll share it. This is the, Mr. Chairman, it's the jail assessment report. As some of you will remember, back in March of 2013, the board hosted a portion of its board of a regularly scheduled meeting in the county jail. We put together a tour. We finished it up in the classroom. At that time, we talked about a number of issues that were hampering or just making jail operations difficult. And we went through and we talked about everything from issues in the kitchen to flooring to the HVAC system to obviously the control boards were probably the hottest topic at the time. Cameras, we talked about capacity, staffing, just a number of issues we addressed. So moving forward, we had worked with the executive committee of the CCP and asked them if they would try and set aside some money so we could actually have an independent firm come in and just do a study, do an assessment of where is the jail, its critical infrastructures across the board. So the CCP built that into this year's plan. The Board of Supervisors approved it as a part of the budget process, and we hired this firm, CGL, to come in and do a facility assessment report. And they came, they interviewed some of our folks, they came on site, they took a ton of pictures, they looked at a lot of our systems, and as you said, Jim, that's a 25-plus-year-old building, and as with any building, it ages. There's deferred maintenance issues. There were some things that were low bid back then that were, you don't always get the very best when you're bidding out public projects. So we've been fighting through a lot of those issues over the years. Some of the things that CGL, and I'll just, it's all in the quick packet we put together. But they talked about controls and video cameras, doors, fencing, fire protection, lighting, HVAC, water heaters, roofing, paving, a whole host of things that they dove into. And now these aren't engineers, gentlemen. These weren't people here to bid a job to make the jail whole. So what they do as a part of their project process is they look at these things, they compare it to the industry standards, they talk about things that in comparison to other projects that they have helped push through. So when they tabulate everything that is deferred and everything, and you'll see the report's about 20-odd pages. It's included as a part of your packet. The short answer is they have some concerns about some of our systems. The good news is control boards. It's not done, but we just crossed a major hurdle there, getting that off the ground. CCTV system, we're making a ton of progress there. Working with Robert Talley and Lacey and the folks at IT, trying to get that camera system upgraded. So those things are. What's that?
CCTV is closed.
Yes, sir. Yeah, all of the internal security cameras inside that jail. So those things are moving along, but as you can see, that list is quite expansive. There are a ton of things in that jail that are going to need some attention in some scaled up order of a priority. All told, they came up with, CGL, they have some concerns about some of the safety issues raised by some of the things that they found, from fire panels to the HVAC system and the like, and you guys can read all of that. We won't take up a ton of your time with it. Everything combined, their estimate is somewhere in the neighborhood of $7 million worth of deferred maintenance in that county jail. Now, not all those things need to be fixed today or tomorrow, but there are some of those things that need to be fixed soon, in the immediate term, and some other things that are in the more intermediate, and some are in the longer term. And I think the short story here is we need to find some way to dovetail this report into the capital improvements plan and figure out what is the best mechanism to prioritize some of these projects.
So a couple things. One, obviously, we appreciate your guys' commitment. You know, you just approved the control panel. We did a coating on the roof a couple of years ago, and that was a high priority. We had some money that we accumulated for the purpose of making buildings for our CCF contract. You approved for us to put a coating on the roof to resolve that issue. Their report does include a full replacement of the roof at some point, but we don't think that has to happen right now. The things that are most pressing are the things we have been aware of. Obviously, the control panels have been the top priority. Behind that, we're going to have to come up with a plan in the very near future for the HVAC systems for the jail. You know, we've had multiple repairs, but the system is just failing across the board. So, you know, one potential remedy is we presented it at the board meeting in 2013, a survey from a company called Aircom. They came and did an energy efficiency study where they looked at every system in that jail, you know, whether it involved use of water, electricity, and so on. And they came up with a proposal at the time, and it wasn't was it a draft proposal, or it wasn't a full comprehensive proposal. It was a preliminary proposal that included replacing a lot of the things in this report, and it would be paid for out of future energy savings. So basically, our utility bills would stay the same, and we pay back the debt against those projects, and utility savings over time. So that's something we've talked to Mr. Egan. We're going to bring that project back up, have those people come back up here, update that, and do what they did before, come up with a preliminary proposal, and then maybe depending on how things go, we might choose to move forward with that as an option. But I'd like this to be included in the capital improvements plan, and just want your support and work with Mr. Egan on trying to figure out timelines and strategies for resolving these issues down the road.
Question? Thank you, Dean. Good report.
Thank you.
Okay. You guys got what's on it figured out?
I think with the direction of the board, I'd be happy to incorporate this into the capital improvements plan. I agree that it should be in there.
Okay. With that, we'll move on to the CAO. You have a report?
I'll be attending the legislative conference, the CSAC legislative conference tomorrow and Thursday in Sacramento.
That is? Okay. Thank you, Jerry.
We have correspondence to receive and
Oh,
file.
what I missed.
Correspondence to receive and file.
Correspondence. Right.
That's just receive and file.
Receive and file.
Okay, for correspondence, receive and file. Now it's your hours.
Thank you.
We're going to put on
Get worse, Paul.
and I'm in 2 degrees Celsius.
Thank you, guys.